All right, it's just coming up to 8:30. We'll just give a couple more minutes and then we'll get started pretty quickly. It shouldn't take too long to go through this PowerPoint and just have a discussion. And then I'm going to open up to questions. So when we get to that point, you're just going to have to put a question in the chat, and then I'll find it and we'll ask you to ask that question. So a few more people just signing in. We'll give it a couple of minutes. Matt Ellis, I see you on. Can you just unmute for a minute and just make sure you can hear everything and just talk to me?
Hello.
Hello, mate. Yeah, I can hear you.
You hear everything okay?
Hello.
Hello, how you doing?
Hello.
You could just be on camera. So people see.
Wonderful. All right, so this is being recorded.
Hello, everyone.
This is being recorded, so we're going to get going fairly quickly. And again, we'll open up questions at the end. If you can just make sure you've muted your microphone. But the purpose of this is to kind of discuss the plans that we have to take the teams in the club now, regional and state. We've named them this because the regional teams will be playing in the EDP regional leagues, and the state teams, the plan is to have them play in the CT state leagues, which they are right now. Theoretically, the regional teams will be the top team and the state team will be the second team. But there are going to be some variations on that we kind of discussed through this. So there's our mission statement that remains the same. You know, we really are a developmental club. We're not out trying to recruit the best players around. We certainly would like them to come to us, but we're also trying to make sure that kids that play for us have the most opportunity to improve within our club and within in our program. To do that, part of the thing that we have to do is make sure that they're playing at the right skill level and make sure the strongest kids are being pushed as hard as they can be, and make sure that the kids that are the next level down are still getting the touches and the repetitions that they need, which doesn't necessarily happen if they're on a team that's probably a little bit too strong for them. So the kind of the main thing with this is to try and get kids into the right spots. So as I said, the aim would be to create teams in every age group where all players are equal ability and commitment and challenged in every practice. The plan would be for most part to be 2 teams per age group where possible, labeled regional and state. I mean, there are variations. Some we're probably only going to have 1 team at. We already have 3 teams at a couple of age groups and a lot of interest at those age groups. So, you know, there will be some variations of that. The regional teams will travel the greater distances to play competition in the tri-state or Massachusetts, Rhode Island, those kind of areas. Whilst the state teams will travel within Connecticut, what we're doing right now, and playing those CT state leagues. Currently working with EDP to find the appropriate level. You know, there's a lot of talk going on about which leagues we can be in, but again, the big thing is that we're trying to, as quickly as possible, find the right level for each one of our teams. As I said, their leagues, the EDP regional leagues, this is, should take me to it if it'll open. But that's the Mid-Atlantic Conference. I'm sure it's going to be opening. There we have the Mid-Atlantic Conference. And the other one would be the North Atlantic Conference, is the other one that we've been looking at entering. Potential travel for these teams would be Connecticut, New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Rhode Island. It's not going to be all of those if we're in one of the groups. So the Mid-Atlantic one, it would be Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, possibly PA. And then if we're in the North Atlantic, we'd be looking at more Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island area. The teams we're going to be putting in these would be the U13 to U14 would be in the fall and the spring, and U15 to U19 would be spring only. So that's the high school teams that will be playing high school soccer in the full months. Basically, this would be March until June as we go through here. There's a couple of ways it may happen here as well. I'm sorry, I'm just getting the message about it's being capped at 100 people. I'm going to send this out to anybody afterwards as well. So if we need to get more people in, you can watch that on the video afterwards. But there's conference play, which is club based. All teams gender based, travel to the same club in the same weekend, or we host the club. So it's very easy for our teams to be playing each other, and our coaches then can also be in the same place. If the conference play is not appropriate for the club next year, we'll do regional team-based leagues for all these teams, which means is the team by team. So basically, it will be scheduled as we do right now, and so as we can play. Each team will be scheduled differently. The club by club based is probably more effective for our coaches and for the coaching directors, but it's not necessarily the best for all the teams. So we're trying to find that right level for that. As we do right now, it'll be 8 to 10 games, which would mean 4 or 5 away trips. And this, for the regional teams, is going to be appropriate for our strongest players whose number one sport is soccer. So that's kind of where we wanted to discuss a little bit more, and we'll discuss a little bit more afterwards. But we really are looking at the people that, if there's a conflict between soccer and another sport, you would choose soccer. If there was, a practice with soccer and a game with another sport, obviously we'd understand that you're going to choose that game. But if it's game to game, we kind of want those players that are going to choose to come and play soccer that day to be on these teams. So state teams, right now they're all our teams are playing in the EDP CT Championship Leagues. So the state teams, which would be effectively our second teams, would remain in the level they're playing right now. They'd be given exactly the same offerings. And again, that's also the U8 to U12 would be in those CT state leagues, as long as, again, we push any really strong teams as far as we can into those regional teams as we can. But U8 to U14 would be fall and spring. U15 to U19 would be spring only, as we said with the high school. We'd still obviously do with both regional and state teams. We would do all our same winter stuff as we've been doing here as well. Travel would be in Connecticut only. These are team-based leagues, where we just talked about each team plays independently in the appropriate level league. So there are, A and B leagues inside this, which you've probably seen inside the EDP league as well. 8 to 10 games per season, fall and spring where applicable. So this is where our code of conduct comes in, which we haven't done with all our teams, but I know this is based off something that John does with his. So I'm going to skim through this really quickly, but for our regional teams, this is kind of how we're looking at what we'd like to do, and we're going to bring it to practice here. So arrival practice 15 minutes before the scheduled times, dressed appropriately. Players will be deducted 1/4 of a game if a practice is missed in the week leading to a game, half of a game if both are missed. Arrive for all games 45 minutes before the scheduled kickoff. If you're late for the warm-up, that player will probably not be able to start, and they won't be able to start, and we'll be starting the first 11 kids at those games for the most part. If for any reason you cannot attend a practice or game, you contact the coaches, give us 24 hours notice where appropriate so we can plan. Take responsibility for your development as a player, seek to improve your performance, and take every opportunity to improve. Cooperate with your coach, teammates, and referees. Feel like we have a pretty good job of doing that. Learn and play by the laws of the game. Again, big part of soccer is knowing exactly what's going on. The rules are constantly changing at the moment, especially if you watch the Premier League. There's lots of different rule changes on handballs and offsides and all that kind of stuff. So to keep up with that is important. Practice the techniques and the skills you learn at CPSSC. Attempt to apply them in games whenever possible. Never argue with the referee or the assistant referees. That goes for parents as well. Be a good sport. Recognize all good play, whether you're your team or opponents. Treat all players as you yourself would like to be treated. And remember, the aim of the game is to develop your soccer skills, ability, and health in a fun environment. So the key takeaways from that is, obviously, we are looking for players at practice, on time, basically taking responsibility for being there. And as we haven't necessarily done in the past, there are consequences, pretty minor consequences, if you are missing for other stuff. Again, these are rules that we discussed with the teams, rules more focused on the regional teams. Finally, coaches. The coaches' assignments will be announced as soon as possible. There is going to be some movement on just about every coach that we have, and we're also looking at bringing in some new young talent. Doesn't mean that everybody's you're not going to be coaching that team anymore or that kind of stuff, but there are going to be, I think every coach, with the exception of Susie with the 2006s, will be assigned some new teams. They'll also keep some of their old teams. Not all teams will have a new coach, but quite a lot will happen. We feel like moving the coaches around here is going to be kind of the best thing for them and for the teams to kind of have a new start and to push on from here. So here are the offerings that we have through the club. That is also on the website. Last year when we merged the two clubs, we got hit pretty hard with obviously a pandemic. So as we hope to be coming out of this pandemic, and we really are pushing on into the summer and into the following fall when we're going to start, and obviously tryouts coming up in the next week or started yesterday. We really want to look at this as the start of CPSSC. Last year I think we did a pretty good job, and the coaches did a fantastic job of keeping the kids moving, keeping the kids engaged, and team managers obviously helped us out massively as well. But this now is really when we can start pushing on and create it, and it can be the club that we've envisioned and we want it to be. So on that note, that is the PowerPoint completed. So I am going to open up. I'm going to stop sharing this for a start, and then we're going to open up for questions. So ideally, if you could put your hand up, and I know I've had a couple of messages saying it's capped at 100 people, which I'm kind of amazed that there's more than 100 people on here. I'm recording this and we can get this out to people afterwards. So Carolina, your hand's up first. Let me see if I can, if I muted you.
Hey, so for the regional teams, if our player makes it, will you be traveling also far for tournaments? Will you be doing more tournaments?
They'll be doing the same amount of tournaments. They'll obviously, right now we're doing them inside Connecticut. We have been looking at doing a couple of tournaments with the EDP that would be a little bit further. But again, they're not a huge amount, but it would be 2 travel tournaments where you'd stay over. Anybody else got a question? Get your hand up again, Carolina, or is that still up?
That's it, sorry.
Okay, thank you. All right, Scott, your hand's up.
Yeah, I put it into the chat as well, but I'm just curious, like with the regional programs, our daughter sort of leans soccer anywhere, but like she does play a different sport in the wintertime. She plays basketball. Like, how is the winter program gonna, vary, change, be different? Are we still sort of like more serious about fall and spring, and winter is a little bit, lower profile, or is there going to be a dramatic change to that?
Yeah, so I mean, the winter will be the same as it has been. So okay. The same offerings. We are still a multi-sport club, a multi-sport facility that we run out of. So for us to say that you have to do this, you have to do it, you can't do other things, wouldn't be in keeping with what we're doing. We are asking that in that spring season, in the fall season, that if you're on the regional team, that becomes your priority. Winter will be pretty much the same.
Okay.
Lauren.
Hey.
Hello.
You can hear me, right?
I can.
Hi. All right. So quick question. So on the chart, 07s are seen as the older premier, so they only technically have a winter and a spring. What will happen to those 07s that are going into 8th grade next year and not high school?
So we come up against this every year. So we'll have accommodation for them. They'll be able to play, because it's Connecticut, they'll be able to play in the 2008 fall league. So we'll make sure that we have a space for those kids to train and play as much as possible. When it gets to November, when they get when their high school teammates would come back, then they would go back to the teams that they've been assigned to. Again, we've done this for the last couple of years. It works out fairly well. Obviously it'd be much easier if everybody went by actual grade, but yeah. All right. Looking for more questions. Anybody else got their hand up? I can't believe I've done that good a job that you haven't got questions.
Dave, it's Crystal. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. How are you?
Good. Hey, I was just checking to see the timing on when the teams will be defined.
So for the younger teams up to U14, we're obviously running through those tryouts. Again, the youngest boys team started yesterday, youngest girls started yesterday. So they're going to be kind of here in the next week or so. We're working through May with the tryouts going up to the older teams. So up to U14, we're trying to get those teams set by the end of May. And then with the high school teams, we're going to try and get them set as much as possible. But we will also have tryouts in November, depending on what we have. But if everybody commits to the teams right now, we would be, looking at building those teams out ASAP.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Sorry. Is it possible to see the roster before accepting your spot?
You can certainly ask. We can tell you who's on it and who we've offered to. We'll be pretty transparent about that. So yes, it is.
Thank you.
Again, if you have questions, you can just unmute now if you'd like to. I've got one here. When will current players be offered spots? Is that Friday, April 30th, and when we know the coaches then? So as far as the coaches go, we're ready. We're pretty much ready to announce it and go with it. I just know that some coaches want to talk to their teams and tell them the teams they're not going to be coaching first. So yes, by Friday, I think we're going to be ready to announce coaches and let them know where it's going. We're also sending out pre-tryout offers to players that we know are definitely going to either be offered a regional spot or a state spot. So they're going out through the week or through the next couple of weeks. So you will be getting those as they come as well. It varies on the date when we ask to hear back, obviously when we send it out. So we're asking to hear back as quick as possible, but it's not right away. We're not offering everybody a pre-offer. If you haven't been offered, it doesn't mean that we don't want you in the club. It means that we don't know if you're definitely a state player or definitely a regional player. So we want to have a look at you inside the tryout against the other kids who are trying out from outside the club. So it's no, I know it's easy for me to say, you shouldn't have to panic if you don't get a pre-offer letter, but we still want to find the right level for people within the club. And as much as we can, we want people playing soccer inside Chelsea Piers Shoreline and inside Chelsea Piers to help people carry on to continue to develop. Question here from Anne, do current players attend tryouts? Yes, they do. For the most part, tryouts will be within the team's practice slots anyway. Obviously, some teams practice at different times. So we're looking for people to turn up for those tryouts. Obviously, we want to make sure that we're comparing and contrasting against the current players to make sure that we're not, so we really know who's at which level. At what age does the regional team start? So they're going to be the U13 and U14 will be the start for regional EDP competition. We are looking at developing, the regional and state teams at all age groups. So, again, so we can get our like-minded, how we feel stronger players all playing together, and then making sure those next tier down are playing in the state groups. Again, the big aim for the younger age groups is to try and get people in the right setting at that time so that, they can develop to their fullest ability. And again, we know that some people are going to be state now and they're going to end up being the best player in the regional teams at 14, 15. And we know that sometimes as the best player on the regional team at U13 is going to end up being, a mid-range player on a state team. So there is a lot of development ahead and a lot of different time to do it. Good question there. So if a player excelled at state team, would you get called up to regional? Very possibly. That if there's a spot available, then we would definitely look at move as we go. The plan for practices right now is to try and have the two age groups practice at the same time, at the same venue on the same day, so that we can have kind of both teams practice side by side, and then both coaches are looking at all players as much as possible. Not always going to be possible because of coaches' schedules, because of player schedules. If a majority of a team can't get there, then we're going to move it around. But for the most part, we would like to try and get that in. Number of practices is the same for both teams, both sets. The only slight difference is whether we put both groups into State Cup. But apart from that, with the same offerings are exactly the same. Well, these are coming in thick and fast now. What are the roster sizes for high school teams? High school teams, we're looking at a roster between 18 and 20. Again, we find that high school teams, we do have a bit more of a drop off with the players there. So we go a little bit bigger. And we do seem to get more injuries if somebody is playing a high school sport as well as playing with us. How many players right now for U15, U17? Rosters would be, again, that for U15 and U17, it's 18 to 20. Do you ever plan to move to MPL or ECNL? We were previously, last year, some of our teams were in the MPL club based, and we didn't feel that was any better or as good as the EDP leagues. So this is a path for us to go further than we could have with being on the MPL side. ECNL is something that in the future, if we could do, we would do. But it's kind of it's a bit of a closed shop right now with the clubs around here. So if it ever became an opportunity, we absolutely would. But it's right now we're kind of fighting for a spot right there. So if we do well enough in these leagues where we're going, then we're probably going to be invited to a lot of different leagues that we can get into as well. Question here, where will home teams be playing next year? Will all home games be played indoors at CP? We're trying to get off Greenwich Catholic as much as possible, just because of the quality of the field. If it was a great field, we'd love to have a load of stuff out there and a load of stuff at Chelsea Piers. But for those younger age groups, right now, we're going to try and move as much to Chelsea Piers as we can. The practices, some teams currently don't practice at Chelsea Piers, which the plan was always to have one indoors for the younger teams to completely be indoors, and then for the U11 and up would be one outdoors, one indoors. Because of COVID and because of the worry about being inside, we moved a lot of stuff to carry on at Greenwich Catholic, but we would like to try and move as much into Chelsea Piers as we can for the next year, just purely because of the quality of the facilities rather than anything else. Obviously, we also don't get called off very often in Chelsea Piers as well, so we don't have that worry when we know a storm's coming in. The other home field will obviously be Greenwich Country Day School. As they continue to build as well, that may open up another field for us as they're looking to build their stadium field. And we're also still working on a couple of other opportunities that we could possibly have in Stamford, possibly another one in Greenwich. And we're trying to find if we can get one kind of on the New York border in the Rye area as well. Looking for recruiting showcases for the regional teams, yes, absolutely. We're the kind of the regional teams and the EDP have quite a lot of showcases there. So we've done showcasing for the high school age teams for the most part in state, which has been more recording. But as things open up and hopefully, we can get back to normal life, then there would be a lot more showcasing going on and, looking at maybe moving around a bit more. I mean, opportunities we talked about of possibly showcases in December in kind of Florida. And we were talking about March in some other areas as well. So the showcasing may actually be done kind of in the winter to leave the spring to go through and play in those leagues. Is it correct to say that if a player currently sits between the regional and state level evaluation-wise, they will not receive the offer letter, but will be evaluated at the tryout for placement? That is absolutely correct, and thank you for putting it so clearly. So yeah, we're looking at players that we're not sure about. If somebody's clearly on the state team, somebody's clearly on the regional team, we're going to try and get that offer out and let you know as soon as possible. If we're not sure, then we don't want to just make a rash decision. We want to take as long as we can to have a look. When will practice schedules be known? So hopefully within by mid-May. Chelsea Piers wants me to get the practice schedules completed as well, for their facility running purposes. once we know who the coaches are on the teams, which we know now, once we can announce it, that was the next step. And now I can start plugging away at adding the teams into the matrix to try and find where they're going to play. The only other thing we obviously do need is to know exactly how many teams we have at each age group and whether it works to get them together. So definitely by the end of May, mid-June, we'd be fully done. I'm going to try and start working on this as soon as possible. Proposed roster size for U13 and U14 would be 18 for 11v11. Roster sizes for the younger teams as well. For 9v9, the roster size would be 15, and for 7v7, it would be 14. Do you plan on offering a formal summer programming? We offer the Super Y League, which again, Danny, Matt, and Joey can speak to a lot clearer than I can, but we offer the Super Y League. We offer tournament teams through the summer, which I know there's quite a lot of people already registered for those Super Y Leagues, like Y League teams. But if you're interested, you should definitely jump on and speak to Joey about that. And as the tournament teams go to Matt Ellis about those. All right, I think I've answered all the questions there. If I haven't, let me know. And if you have any more questions, sorry, I'm just looking through them. Anybody else have any other questions? Any coaches on here want to have any input? Want to tell anybody anything?
No, Dave, this is for you parents out there. This is a moving moment where all of the tryouts and everyone finding their right fit. And you know, we are doing our best behind the scenes, and we're going to be a very, very strong club to be a part of going forward. That's for sure.
All right. Well, I think then that wraps this up. I will obviously download this and send it out to everybody. I apologize if you're watching this afterwards and you were wasn't one of the 100 people that got on, that you couldn't get on. But if you have any questions, obviously email us. If you email cpssc@chelseapsct.com, that comes through to myself, Danny, and Matt. So you know, one of us will get back to you. Quite often, all three of us get back to you in different periods. But you know, we'll get back to you as quick as possible with questions. I'm sure there are a lot more questions to come as well. But thank you very much for your time. Can't wait to see you all on the fields as soon as possible. And like I said, we're really looking forward to kind of getting this whole CPSSC club moving forward and really kind of becoming what we envisioned a year ago when we started talking about this, to become, you know, the best club in the area. So that's our aim, and we appreciate all your help being part of this stuff. All right, thank you very much. I'm going to end the meeting right now.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, thank you.